How about this? An independent service shop, someone that's not affiliated with a dealership, not affiliated with a manufacturer, exposes Brinkley RV for what it really is. Let's talk about it. Welcome to HBRV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. Now, I want to say thank you to Dustin Simpson and California RV Specialists for releasing that video yesterday. If you have not watched it, I'm going to link it in the description box below of this podcast episode. Make sure you check it out. It's about a 12-minute watch. Great stuff, especially if you're in the market for a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, a toy hauler, etc. Where I want to start is make this very simple. I have never said and never will say that Brinkley RV is a terrible product. What I do say, it's overrated, overpriced, overhyped, and it's not the best in the industry. And Dustin Simpson did a great job exposing that yesterday on a $295 Brinkley. Let's start with the roof, okay? When he went up on the roof, and you'll see that in the video when you watch it, he basically exposed that they are like any other manufacturer that uses some type of rubber, some type of TPO, alpha ply, whatever the name of the product is. It is a mass assembly line. They overglue, there's bubbles, they don't seal everything, they leave spots everywhere. This is not, it's basically, and no offense, I'm sorry if somebody's upset about this, but it's basically buying a Keystone Outback, or you see those type of things in really cheap fiberglass units like, oh my God, don't kill me, but StarCraft, or, I can go on and on. So if you go watch the video, the roof, the actual roof completion and what's going on, and how they lack some sealant in some places that's very important, versus over sealing areas or spilling drops of sealant and glue everywhere, kind of says to me that it's just an assembly line. There's no care into it. Like Intech RV takes a lot of care on their product. Alliance RV, I'm not going to say they're better than everybody, but again, someone that's an RV person, okay? The guys that basically are the majority of the ownership of Brinkley are not what I call RV guys. They're not. They are investors. Their goal has always been, if you look at their past history, and again, past history says they build a company up and they sell it for maximum profit. That's what their history says. Okay? At the end of the day, it's an assembly line. Do they have a nice look to them? Yes. Some of the positive things that I've said about Brinkley on this podcast and during my YouTube channel is it doesn't feel like there's a waste of space inside the trailer, the fifth wheel, the toy hauler. These are very positive things. But let me ask you a question if you made it this far into the episode. If I told you you only had two choices, you couldn't have both. You could either have a well-constructed unit, or you can have a unit that looks really good, that has the best drawers and cabinets in the industry. Which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments section. Because now we're seeing more exposure besides the fiberglass cracking, which Brinkley has already kind of admitted to. You got the fiberglass cracking in the front area of a lot of their units. Now you're looking at the roof construction. It's not that great. Dustin Simpson walked through and showed you that they don't seal a lot. They don't do a body seal on their outside fiberglass areas, because if you listen to the video, Dustin tells you basically that the customer was complaining that water was getting inside the coach, that moisture was getting inside the storage areas. Moisture was getting, not in the actual storage area, but around the seals of where there's doors, where there's frames. So basically, you're overpaying, and again, Forest River can knock me later, but you're basically paying a lot more money for basically a rockwood. I mean, let's be real. It is an overpriced product. And then on top of that, folks, the dealerships that sell it make an insane profit. I mean, the profit margin on a normal Rockwood, Flagstaff, Wildwood, Keystone Cougar, Keystone Montana is around 6 to 9%. There's Brinkley RV sales guys that have bragged that they're making 20, 30, 32, 33% profit margin on basically a coach that is the equivalent quality-wise, as far as the build, as a Rockwood, as a Keystone Cougar, as a, I think it's an Alliance Paradigm. Shoot me later for that if I got that wrong. So you're not getting the quality unit of an Airstream. You're spending Airstream money for Wildwood quality when it comes to the construction. You're spending Intech RV money for the construction of a Coleman. I mean, those are exaggerations, okay? But that's the reality. When you go look, if you go look at an Intech RV, you go look at a Willow, you go look at a Sycamore, you go look at all these ones that don't have slides, you go inside and pick apart an Airstream. It is a superior product construction-wise. It may not have the floor plan you're looking for. They don't have pop-outs or slide-outs, okay, or things like that. But you're spending that kind of money for the same quality of the stuff. Let me put it this way. I will do this all day. I will put a Columbus fifth wheel, a Palomino Columbus fifth wheel. I will challenge you to show me how Brinkley RV is sold for $15,000 to $18,000 more than a Columbus fifth wheel. Let's be real. Go floor plan to floor plan. Palomino Columbus versus Brinkley RV. Virtually, you could pick them apart the same way. This is a problem. Because why this is a problem is the Grand Design RV effect. We put Grand Design RV on this pedestal only to find out that the frames that they were building their big fifth wheels, their 35 feet and over fifth wheels on, was garbage. It was crap. It was terrible. And people as old as 2015 fifth wheels, all the way 2024 fifth wheels, have experienced major frame failure, or frame flex as you would call it. And it took a product that was dominating the market and knocked it down so many notches that it also had a slide effect across the entire industry, because now people are like, well, if Grand Design is the best, that means everybody else is a piece of shit. This is not true. But that's the way our minds as a community work, as human beings work. If this is the best and they're falling apart, then obviously everybody else is worse. So we've put Brinkley RV on this pedestal. So now that things are being exposed, I hope people stop putting it on a pedestal. It's not that great of a product for the price. Now, What would I say about Brinkley? I would say Brinkley is an average product that's on the same level as Flagstaff Rockwood. In fact, I would take Flagstaff Rockwood and Keystone Cougar over a Brinkley any day. And I have my own reasons behind that. And if I went into that in this video, we would be here for like 4 or 5 hours and you get bored. Okay. But I would take those two products over Brinkley any day. Who I would buy Brinkley above? What would I do? What would I buy a Brinkley over? Well, first off, I would buy a Brinkley before I ever bought a Grand Design fifth wheel, as long as Grand Design is owned by Winnebago. So I'd take it over a Solitude, I'd take it over an Imagine, okay? I would take it over a Solitude, I would take it over a Reflection any day, okay? I would buy a Brinkley over anything built by Gulfstream. I would take Brinkley over anything that is built by certain divisions of Forest River. Like, I would buy a Columbus fifth wheel way before I ever bought a Brinkley fifth wheel. I would buy, if we're going fifth wheel wise, again, Brinkley RV, good product, not the best, nowhere near the best, but good looking product. So there's a lot of products I would take over. I mean, obviously I'd buy Riverstone and Mobile Suites and Redwood, but here's another product nobody's really talking about. When it comes to the smaller fifth wheels, I would take a Cruiser RV Essence over a Brinkley any day. I mean, you're spending $15,000, $16,000 less, and you're getting a good product. You're getting a very good product. Is Essence the best? No. But I would take it over Brinkley any day. Now, let me roll backward for a minute. If you could sell a Brinkley RV, let's say a 30-foot total length, lightweight, half-ton series, and you see me always use these because I don't believe in half-ton towable fifth wheels, but that's me, okay? And you lowered the price where it was the same price as an Essence fifth wheel or a Keystone Cougar fifth wheel, now I would have to really dive deep. If Brinkley RV's prices came crashing down to what its reality is, what its real value is, what its real construction is, what its real actual pecking order in the industry is, I would have to actually do a side-by-side comparison on amenities and things of that nature. Now, when somebody had mentioned to me about the Furrion air conditioners before Dustin talked about them, and that is, well, can you blame Furrion? Can you really blame Brinkley for Furrion's screw up with the ACs? Yes and no. Okay, so, and this goes for everybody. This goes for every single manufacturer. I don't care if it's Forest River. I don't care if it's Keystone, Jayco, Genesis Supreme, who I love and support. If Genesis did this too, it'd be the same thing. I give them 50% of the blame because they chose their OEM partner. Okay, so Brinkley chose Furrion to be their partner on air conditioners. So it's 50% Brinkley's fault because Brinkley chose them. The other 50% goes on the manufacturer of the air conditioner. They could have gone with a different partner. They could have gone with a different product. They could have gone with a different system. That goes for everything. This is why I say about the braking and electrical issue. If you guys remember, Brinkley RV was having a lot of issues with their braking system and still do. And some of their electrical issues when it came to their fifth wheels and braking, and when it came to their axles. So they're having a bunch of structural problems lately, but they're not the only ones because they bought that stuff from Dexter, if I remember correctly. It's either Dexter or Morride, I forget. But there were two other manufacturers, including Mobile Suites and Riverstone fifth wheels, that were having the same problem with the same product. So I give 50% of the blame to Brinkley RV, Riverstone, and Mobile Suites for choosing that OEM partner. They could have gone with something different. So when it comes to the vendors that supply them some of the things like appliances and solar panels and things like that, they choose those partners. If something goes wrong, they're not exempt from the blame, but they're not 100% of the blame. They're half, because they made that choice. Okay. Now, you probably noticed the podcast is on the main channel. I am switching things up because I'm just going in a different direction with the actual other channel. I'm turning it into a show more about life as a man in his 40s. Long story. I'll get into it another time. But what I want to do is I want to mention in this podcast episode that not everything is bad. There's a lot of people in the community that are in comment sections of places that post these Reddits and these Quoras and all these forums about how every RV ever manufactured is a piece of shit. Okay? That's all I ever hear all the time from people that are either never going to own an RV or they had a really bad experience. And the anger that they have and the resentment that they have festers, and they have no choice but to go, oh my God, every forest river ever built is going to fall apart. Oh my God, every keystone ever built's a pile of crap. I mean, that's what, and I'm sorry if that sounds like a dick, but that's kind of what it sounds like. It sounds like I need to take and call an ambulance for some of these folks. Now, some of it and a lot of it is legitimate. I understand, and I'm not trying to talk shit about it, but I want you to think about that. How many people, what's the percentage, do you think, of people that walk up and say, yeah, we had a few problems with the trailer, but after the first year, we kind of worked out all the bugs. There's always little things we have to do. It's a vehicle. How many people enjoy the RV lifestyle without saying a word? They don't go online and brag about a brand or talk shit about a brand. How many people are really like that? I could give you the percentage of people that did the survey I did. 98% of people that I sent a survey out to said they're very happy with their rig, even if they had some problems. 1% of you, and it was over 50,000 people that responded to the survey, 1% of you said you would never buy a certain product again because you had a bad experience. 1%. So what is that? 500 people out of 50,000? So that just goes to show you. Now, is that okay? No, that's not okay. I want to make sure that's very clear. 500 people is too many. I like to see that number at like 0.1% or 0.05%. But it just goes to show you that the majority of people that go out and buy, and by the way, it's not just 51%. The super majority of people don't talk about their good experience online because most people don't want their face on camera. Hell, I didn't until I started doing this. And even then, I can't stand the sound of my own voice. In fact, here's what's funny about the whole thing. I got a guy that loves on the loudspeaker to play my short reels on the loudspeaker across the building just to screw with me. I got friends of mine that will literally resend me my videos just to screw with me because they know I can't stand the sound of my own voice. But the reality is this is a great lifestyle. And when I talk about it on this podcast, if you decide even after everything that you're only going to buy a Brinkley, you're only going to buy a Grand Design, at least you're educated. That's all I really want. Is Brinkley RV going to go out of business because I'm exposing their bad quality? No. Did Winnebago after all the Grand Design frame failure things? No. But it gives you and allows you as a consumer to have the education, hey, I know what I'm buying. And now you can negotiate from strength. Like if you decide, yeah, I want a Brinkley because maybe they have the right floor plan, maybe it's the right color, maybe your wife or your spouse or your significant others, like, yeah, it's the only thing I'll ever camp in. It gives you a position of strength in negotiation, like, hey, you know you guys have this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. It gives you negotiating power like, hey, you know you're going to have to drop your price eventually because these problems that keep coming up with Brinkley. Axles, brakes, sidewall cracks, non-sealing of things. Grand Design, all the frame failure, gives you a position of strength, not a position of weakness. And for those of you that overpaid and are pissed off at the world and pissed off at me, if you're pissed off like some of these corporate RV dealership YouTubers, hey, go right on ahead. Be mad at me. It's fine. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm not here to be people's friends. I'm here to give it to you how it is. Give it to you straight and transparent. Now, the last thing I'm really going to talk about today, we're going to make this a shorter episode, is Bish's RV is probably going to be in deep trouble pretty soon. Now, it's not for sure. It's not a definite. But apparently, I'm starting to finally get some emails from people that have bought either a Grand Design or a Brinkley from a Bish's location, and their batteries keep frying. I'm having a couple of service people look into it that are independent to see if they have seen that or why it's happening. This has nothing to do with Josh the RV nerd. This has to deal with the service, parts, and sales people at the actual locations of Bish's. Because if they're putting in batteries that are... So when it comes to battery setups, you have to be very careful. I know that there's a lot of DIY people or DIY people or whatever the hell you want to call it that want to sell you on lithium, sell you on AGM, sell you on this setup, sell you on that setup. You have to look. It doesn't matter if it's a Primetime Avenger, a Brinkley RV, a R-Pod, a Forest River Rockwood. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a $500,000 Tiffin bus. What can the converter handle? What can the solar charge controller handle? What do these certain batteries that are being promoted and sold, are they the right battery for that coach, for that converter, for that solar kit? It's something you really have to pay attention to when it comes to, how do I put this without sounding like a dick? I guess there's no other way. You're going to torture your freaking electrical system. You're going to torture your 12-volt system if you don't have the right combination of the setup. The problem is salespeople, and Bish's RV is not going to be immune to this because it's something that is inevitable. Salespeople will take the path of least resistance. So if a guy tells you, I want, and again, this is going to be a made-up battery, okay? A Battle Bore 9000 lithium battery, 800 amp hour battery. Oh, you don't need to do anything to the setup. No, we'll just put the battery on there. And the sales manager who desks the deal doesn't have enough education about it. Then it goes to parts and service people that may or may not know what they're doing with batteries and 12-volt systems when it comes to these lithium batteries. And that causes a lot of emails I'm receiving where people keep burning through lithium batteries or AGMs. We have to be very careful about how we sell batteries as an industry. The industry is not ready for everyone to have a lithium battery. There are folks that have a lithium package in their motorhome, came from the factory. They're having major problems because the technology is not fully ready. They say it is. And no offense, and this is not an offense to Bob Martin or Doug Gettard or any other CEO or president or VP or GM or product manager of a manufacturer, but a lot of times manufacturers rush something out before really thinking about it when it comes to new technology because they want to be first to market, first to show. They want to beat their chest at the Tampa show and the Hershey show and open house and Elkhart for the dealers saying, we got the best and we're the first to this and we're the most innovative. The hard truth is you're better off, and I'm not a 6-volt fan, okay? But you're better off with 180 amp hour 6-volt batteries paralleled than you are with a lithium battery. Unless you're just going to run every electronic for 2 weeks straight, everything's so low voltage. Most people plug in at a campsite. Most people only dry camp for 3 days and 2 nights because we all have to work. And when we're retired, we have things at home like pets and housework. When you're full-time RVing, how often do you really go off the grid for every day of every year? How often do things really drain your battery down except in the winter when you're running your furnace? I've had the same battery setup, basic marine grade battery setup, for years. Cheapy battery, cheap interstate battery. Never had a problem. Dry camping, anything. You got the right solar setup. You turn off your lights in the night. Now, again, there's exceptions to this. You got a CPAP machine, you need a little bit better battery setup because you're going to have a CPAP at night with an inverter. Right? You know, your children and you are going to completely go out in the middle of nowhere with no generator, no nothing. Okay, you need probably a lithium battery setup. But just think about the cost and the carbon footprint of a lithium battery. It's enormous. Is it really worth it? In the long run, is it really worth it? That's the only question you can answer for yourself. But just food for thought. You know, there's a lot of people being sold these incredible battery packages because that's the best thing to market. Does it really increase the value of your trade? No. Does it really increase the retail value of your coach? No. Add-ons don't do nothing. They don't do shit. And it's just the way it is. Add-ons are for your own personal want and need. So until next time, remember that RV stands for what? Toolkit and sense of humor. Have a good one.